Welcome to A Man's Perspective, a podcast where we explore the world through the eyes of men. We'll be discussing things like relationships, mental health, current events, all from a man's perspective. We'll be discussing issues that matter most to men and sharing our own experiences along the way. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation as we explore the world through a man's perspective. Welcome to A Man's Perspective with Andres Garcia. I'm Andres Garcia. This is our 0 episode. And this episode, we're going to talk about me. What do I say about myself? I consider myself with all the business failures that I've had, I consider myself a successful failure. I'm not a super successful guy. I'm not a super educated guy, but I feel I have a lot to offer. I've been on this planet long enough to see trends, to see ideas come and go, and I wanted to pass on those ideas that stay with us, that I believe helped me grow and may help somebody else grow. So today I'm going to be asked questions about what I would do in a given situation, how I would interpret it, what my thought processes would be, and what steps I would take to alleviate whatever concern. So I'm going to be read questions. I'm going to answer those questions, and hopefully you guys can get an insight as to how I think and feel about certain things. So for the first question, my producer is going to ask me that question. Isabel, yay! And I'll be answering. Go ahead, Izzy.
How do you personally define masculinity?
Masculinity. I define masculinity. Well, if we're looking at like the definition of it, I would think that it says, I haven't looked it up yet, but I would think that it says something about behaviors or characteristics that come or are assumed by a man. But I think it's a little bit more than that. Masculinity drives us to be better, to do more, to provide for the people that we love, to secure the people that we love, even to the point to sacrifice ourselves for the people that we love. Masculinity is, I know people say things like toxic masculinity and all these popular words right now. I don't think there's such a thing as toxic masculinity. I think there are bad people, male and female, or whatever, however else you identify. I think there are bad people, but as far as toxic masculinity, I don't think it exists. I think masculinity is what makes firefighters run into burning buildings, is what makes cops run towards the danger. Masculinity is what, in spite of fear, in spite of us not wanting to do something, we do it for the betterment of the people that we love. We do it for the betterment of our society. We do it to make everyone around us better. So that's what I think masculinity is. And that's how I would define it. Next question.
So what is a topic of interest that you can go on about for hours?
Oh, physics. Even though I've never studied physics, but I don't understand. I read the abstracts and stuff, but I don't fully understand the experiment itself. But I love the abstracts. I love the footnotes because of what the ideas that they bring up in us, the possibilities, more to say, like entanglement theory. Entanglement theory states that when two items are entangled with their photons and electrons, that what happens to one happens to the other regardless of space and time. So what that means is, like, if I have a quarter here and a quarter on Mars, when I flip it here, the same thing happens to the other one on Mars, regardless of space and time, instantaneously. And that goes against Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. But according to entanglement theory, information is transferred faster than the speed of light. So what does that mean? Can we travel to other planets instantaneously? There's an old movie, The Fly, where he had two booths. He would go into one, and instantly, through entanglement theory, apparently he would be transferred into the next one. And then he got mixed in with the fly, and so that's where the movie The Fly. Could things like that exist? I think so. So just those questions, man, you can go on and on and on. Like we know particles, atomic particles, um, they can travel backwards in time up to 3 nanoseconds. We know that because of the experiments done in 2005 at the Canary Islands. So physics is one thing that I could go on and on. Even though if I talk to a physicist, I'll just be in awe because I would probably would not understand most of the words that they use. But I love the ideas that they inspire, that they bring about, the thoughts, the potential, the possibilities. That's what I love most about physics, and that's why I read as much as I can about physics.
Awesome. So next question is, how do you think men could support and uplift each other in breaking down harmful stereotypes and expectations related to masculinity?
Good question. I like that question. The only thing I would have issue with is the harmful stereotypes. I don't know if being a masculine man is harmful. There are men that engage in criminal behavior, and that's a criminal. That's not a masculine man. That's a criminal. So I wouldn't know about the harmful stereotypes. But the stereotypes, as I said before, about cops running into to at bullets and firefighters running towards a burning building to save people's lives, that's a masculine man. Those stereotypes are true, and they have been true as far back as I can remember. How could men support each other? As for me and my friends, we support each other by being there for each other. We'll pick on each other. We dig at each other's vulnerabilities, but we do it in a joking manner in order to strengthen us, to build us, to harden us, to make us better. But when my friends truly become vulnerable, or when I truly become vulnerable on the verge of crying, which has happened many times, my friends, they don't judge me. They don't say you're all these silly terms like man up. We know that we're going to be vulnerable. We know that we're going to be weak at times. And we're there to support each other. We're there to build each other. We're there just to listen. That's what people don't realize the most. Sometimes you just need to listen. Everyone's quick to give advice and do this and do that. But listening is really the best way that we can support one another as men. Not be judgmental, learn to listen, and just be there for each other. When we call, I know it's popular right now for return text messages or voice calls hours later or days later, some instances. But to be there, read the text message and respond, answer the phone and respond. And most of the time we do that anyway. I've never had a friend call me back 2 days later or a day later, sometimes hours later, because some of my friends work in areas where they cannot have a phone and they cannot answer the phone. Or sometimes at work can get busy some days. So that we do, we'll call back later, but usually we'll explain as to why the the return call took so long. But no, I think that the thing to take away from this is to be there for each other, to listen to each other, and to not judge each other. And we don't. My friends do that. We poke and prod, but we don't judge each other. We don't say you're less of or things like that. So that's how men can be there for each other.
All right. So next question is, what is one piece of advice that you think men should know about life?
Wow, good question. Piece of advice. It's really the title of this podcast, perception. Some time ago, I was told about the well, this is a story. This is how I realized how important perception is, because perception is valuable. It can dictate our lives in some instances. But some time ago, well, everyone in college or high school is told about the Spartans at 300 at Thermopylae. When I was first told that story or that incident about that incident, I thought it was folklore. I thought it was mythology. Because anyone that sees the riots, you can see once 100, 200 cops are done with 500 rioters, they just kind of plow through them using different forms of technology, but they just kind of mow through them. And a military will have usually the same technology as the other military, or pretty close to it. So for 45,000 soldiers to be held for 3 days by 300 soldiers seems an impossibility. Seems like it can't be done. But 15, I don't know, 15 plus years ago, I was asked, what's the first society to fight for democracy? And everyone, all the guys were like, oh, USA, blah, blah, blah. But the answer was the Spartans at Thermopylae. So it piqued my interest. So I started looking into it. I started reading about the Spartans. And some of the things I read were just amazing, unbelievable. Like at 7 years old, the males in society, the boys, were taught basic life survival, given a spear and tossed into the wilderness and expected to live for 5 years with no guidance, I mean, with no support, with no help from anyone in the city. So if they survived and lived the 5 years, then they were allowed to come back into the city and run this gauntlet maze type of thing. I forget what it's called, but to me it was like a gauntlet kind of thing. And even running this gauntlet, some of the boys died. At 12 years old, trying to pass this maze, they died. And you would think that that would be enough to get you back into the city, but that just started your training. Once you survive the 5 years in the wilderness, once you pass this gauntlet, now you start your training. Now you are assigned a mentor, an older soldier that was tasked to teach you how to fight, how to overcome, all the things necessary to be an effective soldier, a warrior. And some of the things that they did was just they were in our society now we would never accept it. Not only would it be, not only is it a criminal act, it's immoral. It's I don't know, unacceptable, intolerable, whatever word you can think of. It's just they would not do it, and it involved grown men and little boys. And think about the worst, and chances are that's what they did. But that society didn't see it as the way we see it. They saw it as training, and so did the little boys. And even though I'm sure it was horrific having to go through it, but we have to look at the outcome. What were these men like? I read stories of Spartan soldiers in battle fighting with 3 spears in them, with 3 swords in them, and still killing people. And I know in the movie, the Spartan movie, the 300, there was a guy fighting with 3 spears, but it was because they killed his son. And that's how they tied it into us so that we can attach an emotion to it. But in that era, in that time frame, those people, the Spartans, it was common for all of them to do that. They would. I even read one story where Spartan soldiers were captured by the enemy, and they tried to torture them, and the Spartan soldiers were laughing at their captors. They ended up killing the captors and then escaping. These people were just, to say they were hard is an understatement. To say that these people could fear death was, or did not fear death, I should say, it was, man. There's no way to validate how much they did not fear death. So when you look at these warriors, these soldiers, the fearlessness in them. Imagine you're a soldier and you see your enemy with 3 spears in them, still killing your fellow soldiers. You're gonna run and hide. So now I can see why the 300 Spartans held off 40,000 to 45,000 Persian soldiers at Thermopylae. I can believe it now. And so, but that helped me to see things as our life as training versus trauma. Trauma makes us a victim. Trauma holds us back. Trauma keeps us in our feelings. Trauma keeps us just wanting to do things to yourself that you shouldn't. But if you see your life as training, it prepares you for things to come. If you see those hardships, those horrible things that happen to you as training, you're going to be able to overcome things that other people cannot. You're going to be able to teach people how to overcome the things that they can't overcome. Because that training gives you certain mindsets, certain ideas, certain ways to keep moving. Because we need people like that. Society needs people to keep moving. We can't stop. Everyone can't be a victim, because then things stop working. The water stops running, electricity stops flowing, gas stops coming into the houses. Things will stop if we stay in and I don't want to say that we can't ever be hurt, that we can't ever be traumatized, that we can't ever just take a break and stop and deal with whatever's going on inside of us. We should. But for me personally, seeing my life as training has helped me significantly. It doesn't overcome the things that you've been through. It doesn't get rid of them. but it helps me to realize that I can do things that other people cannot. And that and it's been that way in my life. There's things that my fellow men were crying over, or wanting to self-delete over, or wanting to, run away from. And to me, I thought, oh my God, this is so simple. How can these guys be going through this? How can you lose 35 pounds in a month because you're so stressed out? I couldn't understand it, but because it took me all these years to understand that I was training, I was going through training. All those hardships in my youth were training to get me ready for what I had to do as an adult. So that's why I chose to call this a man's perspective. Because perspective is not everything, but sort of everything. Because we need to have the right perspective in order to keep moving, in order to keep getting things done. So that's the lesson that's had the most benefit for me, and I hope that would be able to help somebody out there, even if it's, even if you retool it and change some of the things, but as long as you're able to keep moving, you don't stop, because we can't stop. We have to keep going forward. That's what I would say is a life lesson from me, or from me. Okay?
Awesome. So now that we've had a chance to look into your mind, get a little piece of you, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna ask you a question from Reddit. The first subreddit is from the Ask Men. It's from a 25-year-old male asking how to live in the moment. So it goes, I have a serious issue with living in the moment. It feels like I'm always waiting for the next stage of life to happen, and when it does, the cycle repeats. How can I start living in the moment and start being happy today, rather than waiting for it to happen tomorrow? I make good money for my age, and I have a wonderful girlfriend, nice place to live. Money's not an issue for either of us, but I still can't be happy in the moment. And it's sucking the life out of my girlfriend, and it's driving me crazy. Any advice?
Yes, living in the moment. That's a very difficult thing, because as humans, our past dictates who we are today. And the concerns for the future determine our actions today. So I would say, to live in the moment, be grateful. Be grateful for things that you have right now. And it sounds like you have a tremendous amount of things to be grateful. The job, the partner, the success you have in your life. I know at times it can feel like you're supposed to be more successful. You're supposed to be more prepared. You're supposed to be better equipped. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because you're looking into the future. You're making a self analyzation or evaluation, and you're trying to become a better human being. But I can see how not being grateful for what you have now can make it difficult to live in the moment. So I'm not saying don't look at your past, don't think about the future, because we have to, but try not to. Wake up every morning, speak out loud things that you're grateful for: your life, your health, your success, your partner. There's a tremendous amount of things, even if you don't have success, even if you don't have a great partner. The fact that you're alive is a thing to be grateful for. The fact that you have clean air to breathe, is successful. I mean, is a good reason to be grateful. The water, the food, the clothing, the shelter, however it is, those are all things to be grateful for. So first thing in the morning, get up, stretch your face, your body, and speak out loud things that you're grateful for. Don't compare them to the past. Don't compare them to what you need to accomplish. Accept that what you have. Accept that you've accomplished all those things that you're grateful for. And it's because of you. It's not because of anyone else, because you made the decision to be where you're at. It's your good decisions that made you so successful and put you to the point that you're at now. So acceptance and gratitude for what you have now, who you are now, is for me personally, one of the best ways to live in the moment. That's the advice I would give. That's the advice I would give to myself. Wake up, stretch, drink some water, and speak out loud the things you're grateful for. Even speak them into the mirror so that you feel like you're talking to somebody. You feel that you're sharing something that's true to another human being, even though it's yourself. But speak them out loud. Definitely speak it out loud. That's what I would do. That's how I would live in the moment. Thank you for watching A Man's Perspective. I hope that this gives you some insight as to how I process things and how I deal with things. I hope this helps. I hope you keep watching. I hope you subscribe. I hope you like the video. I hope you grow, more importantly. That's the biggest issue. I'm trying to create a space here, an all-inclusive space for all of us, but primarily men, to ask questions that we wouldn't feel comfortable asking anyone else. Because it's together that we grow. It's together that we become more than we were yesterday. It's together that we become better. So I hope that this helps. I hope that you understand where I'm coming from. Even though I may say things that someone might not like, but it's not meant with malice. It's not meant with any ill intent. I really do love all of you. I really do want all of us to become better human beings. And more importantly, to become better men. Thank you for watching.